Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Confident Coaching Podcast. I'm Gillian, and today we are going to talk about how to get clients interested in working on non-aesthetic goals. And specifically, we want to talk about how to tap into client motivation for goals that are not solely weight loss. And I've been having a lot of conversations with coaches recently about how they're like, I don't want my business to just be all about fat loss. But there's also this feeling of like, but I feel like this is what clients want. And so this episode is going to specifically dive into how to have these conversations with clients you're already working with, but you can also extrapolate some of this stuff and use it in your content. And if you have any questions about this, or if you're like, hey, I want a podcast episode specifically around like how to talk about it on social media, let me know. I'm happy to do that for you. So let's think about this because, yeah, it's true. Most of the clients that we are going to find that are seeking out nutrition or fitness coaches want to lose weight or want to change how they look in some way. But what we want to understand is what is actually behind that. Right. And if you've been working with clients for a while, you know that often it's related to being able to feel or do things that they don't currently feel that they can do, right? Whether it's like wear certain outfits, have certain experiences, feel a certain way about themselves. And so we're not going to talk about in this episode like how to convince your clients to not want to lose weight because that's not what this is about. It's about understanding what's underneath a fat loss goal and uncovering motivations for goals that don't revolve around the scale, right? And you're going to learn some tips for how to navigate a conversation like this with a coaching client. So, the first thing I want to talk about is the fact that aesthetic goals aren't bad. I think we see on social media a lot of like either people saying like, intentional fat loss is damaging, or we see coaches that are like, no body autonomy, you can do whatever you want with your body. And I don't really agree with either of those because yes, body autonomy, our clients can do whatever they want with their bodies, but it's our responsibility to make sure that their health is protected. And if someone is coming to us and they want to lose body fat and it's not in line with their health and well-being, or it could be damaging to their health and well-being, well, that's putting us at risk as well, right? And it's never just about the weight loss, right? Like no one ever wants to lose weight just for the sake of losing weight. It's about moving away from discomfort or towards some type of pleasure or relief. And this is really important for coaches to be clear on when we're working with a client is that it's not about the number on the scale. You know this. It is about what that means to them, what they're making it mean about themselves. Has so much to do with that emotional attachment, right? But what I'll often see is that coaches play into how easy it is to market fat loss in marketing. Because I'll see coaches say, like, oh, you'll feel more confident when you lose weight, or, they'll market things like lose 15 pounds and feel more confident in a bikini, or coaches will share testimonials that make it about the coach wants to make it about the mindset, but it's sharing a before and after photo. And I'm sorry, but if you're sharing a before and after photo of your client half naked of like, this is what she looked like then and this is what she looks like now, and underneath you're like, but it's about the mindset, I really encourage you to think a bit more deeply about what message that is actually sharing, right? And this is not about invalidating your client's desire for body changes. This is not about demonizing fat loss coaching. So it's not about trying to convince your clients that they don't need to lose body fat. It is about you doing the work as a coach of uncovering deeper motivations and helping your clients expand their goals and expand what they want outside of just like, I want to see my body change, right? And so, how do I have these conversations with clients? And so, it's really important to recognize, and if you follow me on social media, I don't market fat loss. I market what clients want for themselves. For example, one of my most recent clients was scheduled a discovery call. I'd never spoken to this person before, had no clue who they were. And he scheduled a discovery call and joined coaching immediately. And you want to know why? Because I spoke to an experience that he really wanted to have. which was spending time with friends and family without feeling obsessed with the food or overeating. And he told me that specifically, he didn't realize before seeing my content on social media that it actually wasn't a willpower issue and that it was actually more related to relationship with food, right? Now, does this client want to change his body? Yeah. Is that specifically why he hired me? Absolutely not. And we are not working on fat loss at all. So, yes, this is an amazing client because really came into my coaching through absorbing all of what I put out on social media. Not all of it, but like the message. But that's not necessarily going to happen with all of your clients, right? Here's what you're going to do. You're going to have a conversation with your client about their goals. That's what happens when we start coaching a client. But we want to break it down. And we want to start specifically with empathy, where let's say your client is like, I want to lose 15 pounds. And the empathy is like, yeah, I get that. You want to feel better in your body. It's a valid goal. And you're probably asking them, like, well, why do you want to lose 15 pounds? And I want to feel better in my body is probably one of the things that they say. And this is where you affirm your client's feelings and thoughts and desires are valid. You're not resisting them, right? You're not telling them, like, oh, well, we need to work on this thing first, or like, before we do that, we do this other thing. And honestly, you do want to help them feel better in their body. And so, in starting with empathy and affirming that, like, hey, what you feel is valid, you're fostering autonomy in your client, and autonomy is huge for motivation. It's also huge for creating that client rapport so that you can have some of those deeper, harder conversations. The next thing I would really encourage you to do is to explore what's beneath that aesthetic goal. And this is where you're going to use open-ended questions. So you might say something like, when you picture feeling leaner, what do you imagine will be different in your daily life, right? And so this is a motivational interviewing aligned type conversation because you're using open-ended questions. You will also start evoking values and understanding like what's actually important to them. And you're going to start developing discrepancy. So understanding sort of the difference between what they maybe say they want or what they're doing and what they actually want or what they're motivated to do. And you'll often hear clients in this conversation talk about things like, well, I want more confidence, ease, energy, joy, all things that you're like, that is not directly related to a change in aesthetics, right? And you might be thinking like, well, my client doesn't need to lose weight in order to have more confidence, but let's play devil's advocate here. Maybe they do need to lose weight to do the things that they want to do in their life. Maybe they do need to lose weight to have these experiences, right? Maybe it's really fucking hard for your client to get off the couch, or pain in their knees keeps them from running after their kids, and losing some weight can help, right? So it really doesn't matter whether or not like you're like, they don't need to lose weight to do these things, or they do. What we do want to maintain is unconditional positive regard for our clients. I've talked about this in a previous episode. We want to understand that their goal is valid, but you also want to know more about those experiences of confidence and joy, et cetera, right? And so I hear a lot of coaches, especially when they're newer to these conversations, they'll try to be like, well, you can be confident without losing weight. And your client doesn't believe that to be true. And so saying that isn't helpful. But what you can do is you can play around with hypothetical thinking. And hypothetical thinking is a really fun way to have like these conversations with clients that do go a little bit deeper, where you're not putting words in their mouth, but you're exploring like, how do they see the world? And it can often open their eyes to like, oh wait, that thing that I thought was true, maybe it's not 100% true, right? So here's a potential question you can ask. Let's say your body never changed, but you did feel that way. What would be different about your life, or what might you be doing differently on a regular basis? Now, this opens the door to change talk, right? Change talk is what we want to be listening for in these conversations, and we want to be evoking more change talk. You may also get some sustained talk, which is the like, I can't, I don't want to, I'm not ready to. That's fine. But you're supporting autonomy and you're fostering collaboration with your client. You're not taking away the aesthetic goal. You're expanding their idea of what moving towards the things that they've told you they want would look like, right? So you may come away from a question like this with like, oh, okay, so you actually want to be, I don't know, wearing more color, or, spending more time with your friends, but you feel like, your weight is holding you back, or whatever that is, right? So you're actually identifying things that they could potentially be doing that would support their confidence, even without like convincing them out of their fat loss goal, right? And this isn't necessarily enough for a client to be like, oh, yeah, I guess I don't want fat loss. I just need to work on confidence. It is an incredible starting point for conversations that look at like life improvement outside of just how do I change my body. And I'll repeat this one more time. This isn't about convincing clients out of fat loss or telling them that they can't approach fat loss right now. It's about helping them see a larger picture of how they can change their lives, right? So this was a pretty practical episode. You have a couple of questions that you can specifically use in a conversation, right? And it opens your clients up to seeing that there is more that you can help them with than fat loss. There is more for them in this world than fat loss, and you are on their team to help them get there. And so if this episode has got you thinking like, ooh, I actually want to coach more like this, but I feel like when clients come in, they're also different. Like I'm recreating the wheel with every new client. That is exactly what I help coaches with inside the Confident Coaching Pathway, which is my brand new 9-week mentorship style program where I help coaches clearly map out a non-macro focused coaching flow from onboarding to end. This doesn't mean that you cannot be a macro coach. This means that I'm helping you identify if macros are not a right fit for a client, or if it's time for a client to move away from macros. I'm helping you map out that flow. So you're not stuck figuring out what's next when a client doesn't want to track or when it's time for them to move away. Exactly. And we're also working in this program on helping you feel more confident in conversations like this. That is part of the curriculum. You're going to get feedback on your communication. And I'm going to be really honest, the beta group sold out so quickly. And the coaches that have joined there's so much excitement coming from them. And they're so ready to build structure around a coaching program that feels like calm and cohesive and repeatable instead of chaotic and all over the place. So I want to let you know that if this sounds interesting for you, you can join the interest list and you're going to get a full breakdown of what's inside the program. And you're going to be the first to hear when doors open for the next round of the program, which will be in early 2025. So if you'd like to have a more like consistent, repeatable system for coaching without over relying on macros or scale weight, this is the list that you want to be on. And you will find the link in the show notes. So thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And I will see you again next time.